Ciao ragazzi, this is Katie Portanova, and you're listening to Florence and Me. I'm a lover of stories and all things Italian, and I'm going to bring you all that in this podcast. My intention is to inspire you to step out of your comfort zone and explore life and travel the world. Join me as I tell you my story and many others about Italy and my love, Florence. Andiamo! Hello, everybody. We are back with Florence and me, and I have Giulia on the line. Hello, Giulia. Are you there?
Hello.
So we're glad to be back. Let's do a little catch up because I haven't talked to you in a long time. So you moved. I told all of our listeners that you moved. How's the new place?
So the new place is pretty cool. It's an apartment with just a balcony, which is very new for me. I'm not used to living in an apartment, but it's pretty cool. It's very central, easy to get to the public transport, which is awesome. I think the only real downside was getting the internet set up because that was just a hassle.
Oh yeah, what happened with that?
I don't know. They were having a problem moving the connection over because it's like one of those ADSL line connections, and in Italy everything is a procedure, and if it's not done like correctly the first time, then it takes a really long time to get them to fix that. But yeah. So overall, not too bad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But
There's no communication when it comes to those types of things in Italy.
oh no, this is so bad. I
So
mean,
anybody living or moving there or living there, you guys don't understand because it's like they don't listen to the support tickets and like the calls. It's like, oh wait,
no.
what? Oh, I forgot that one thing that will fix your internet. It's in my truck, but not this truck. Somebody
Exactly.
else's truck.
Somebody else's truck. I
Yeah.
eventually had to, I spoke to my landlady, and
Yeah.
she spoke to a friend of hers that
Uh-huh.
works at the ISP, and he
Mm-hmm.
fixed the problem. But if that wasn't the
That's
case, I wouldn't have gotten it fixed.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. See, you gotta know people when
That's
you
Italy.
Millie, get down, Millie. So, my little news just right now is I was telling Julia before we started recording. So my Millie, my oldest cat, she's not that old, but I found she's just a dumb kitty that likes to eat my plants. And since Stefano left to run some errands, she decided to eat this one plant that's a little bit lower to the ground, which I didn't think she would eat anymore, and then threw up all over my house, basically. Yeah. So now she's just gonna be a little. Now she just wants attention. So good thing you guys don't
Same.
have video. Anyway, so Italy and internet and doing things is
Yeah,
difficult. There she is.
it is. But you had a birthday recently.
I did. I
Yeah.
did. So, yeah, please, prego, Millie. She just walked in front of on the camera. Yeah. So we being that Millie, obviously. Stop. Yeah, meow. I know. Yeah. So me and Stefano decided to save on money and not fly anywhere as much as I would have loved to go to like Colorado or even visiting Arizona again. So we ended up driving to Millie, mother. She's all over my
Same.
desk. Um, so we drove 5 hours south to visit my uncle who lives in outside of St. Louis, where I was actually born, which I don't know if I ever told you that.
No.
So yeah, so it was really fun. We had a really nice visit. It was nice to have 2 days off, which I don't normally get, which was divine. Um yeah, and I don't know, I felt felt good about it.
That's
Felt
cool.
good about it overall, you know?
That's awesome. But it's good. That's what you want for a birthday, right? It's just to enjoy yourself
Yeah.
and feel good. Everyone
Yeah.
wants that.
Totally. Hold on, let me get.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, Millie.
Oh, sorry about that.
How old is she?
She was born in 2018. So how old is that?
Wait, that's 5?
5, yeah. She's 5. But she's just very territorial and she really likes to just be by me all the time. But she doesn't want to like sit on me like your cat. She wants to like be on my desk in front of my face and then hit me in the face, which is what she just did. And she just likes to like, you know what they do. Push stuff off
Yeah.
things off desks. Yeah, so my weekend was good. That was last weekend. And well, I don't know if I told you, so I'll tell everybody else as we are talking. So I found this really cool application that I'm going to purchase, and it's for creating itineraries for your clients. And it's called Travify. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but
Yeah.
I haven't played with it yet. I haven't bought it yet, but a friend of mine who does a lot of travel, like trips with people, she used it in the past and she's like, it's so awesome because you create the itinerary, like if I was gonna, you know, buy their tickets and all that, like you can put all the stuff in this one app and you have the boarding pass, the confirmation number, like the confirmation number for your driver, for anything that you purchase for the client, like on this app. And it actually so it has that on the app, so it's in your hand. You could also download it into a PDF, all the information, or you can, you know, pull it up on a desktop. So it's like
Okay.
all it sounds like so cool. And I've been looking for like a smaller offer for my clients and for people that are maybe on a budget and they can't afford my services in any other way, that, you know, for a lower cost, they purchase it and they just download the app and it goes to their phone and that's it. And the app is free for them. Um, yeah.
That's pretty
I mean,
cool.
I think it sounds really cool because a lot of people don't want to carry papers anymore. Like we don't walk around with maps as I once did in Florence.
Oh,
Like people
yeah.
are on their phones, like connected to. I love maps. You know, I love being on maps. Um, I like just standing and like I don't get into the map like Joey from Friends, but but I do turn the map so I'm on the right street facing the right direction.
Yeah.
but but yeah, a lot of people, I don't see anyone this past time when we were in Florence in September. I don't see anyone with maps in their hand, right?
Like basically
Maybe,
no one. Um, when we went to Milano last
mhm.
year for my
Yeah.
birthday,
Yeah, I
um,
can feel that.
we had this map that we were walking around the city with, which is
Yeah,
unusual. You don't see anyone with a map.
sure.
But strangely enough, a lot of tourists ended up stopping and asking us for directions when we had the map out.
Yeah, because you can't tell who's a tourist if you don't have a map in your hand. I totally
Right?
get it. I totally get it. Oh my god, that's so funny. And you're like, sure, hurry, I'll show you on my map. Like,
Yeah.
we're here. You need to go there. Point. I don't know how you're going to get there because I'm not from Milan, but
Yeah.
this is where you should be.
It's pretty much it.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. I remember um I guess the only map I remember seeing is when Stefano had to go get a map for my clients. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, that's
Because they
true.
wanted a map and I had not provided them with a map because they were going to take the day and just kind of walk around.
And
And
and and that group was also a little bit of an older group, so they would be used to maps
yeah,
versus
they
using
didn't
your
want to use
phone.
their phone. And yeah, and it's hard for people first time coming to Florence or any like city um in Italy because all the street signs are on the wall. So they expect to see like a big pole. Like I remember that was like a big culture shock for me like 20 years ago. And I'm like, where the hell is this Via name? Like, where is the Via? Where is the name of street? I could never find it. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Way up there on the wall. Like, but yeah, I think that's but so yeah, anyway, so my idea is to create these simple itineraries, not a lot, and just see how they go, you know. Yeah, so any listeners out there, if that sounds like something that would be awesome, like for you, oh, I just got this really great review of my podcast, Julia. This woman
Awesome.
messaged me through Instagram. I don't know. It is not family or anything. This is like a really big win for me because it's a stranger that like wrote me a very nice review and how actually I kind of want to read it. Can I read it? I want to read it.
Of course.
It's my first real review, not from a family member or a friend, because it's just like it's like a big it's a big highlight for me. I'm just gonna say.
It's always exciting. The first is always so exciting.
Yeah, right? Okay, let me pull it up. Okay, hold on. I gotta find things. Why can't I find things? I'm so excited. All right, there it is. Okay. So her name is Lisa. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't wanna like her name is Lisa. She wrote, "Hi Katie, I love your podcast. I'm a Chicago gal like you, but I live in Iowa now. Only 3 hours away and make it back there once a month." Okay. I studied opera in Florence in 1989.
Wow.
And hearing your stories and naming the streets and churches brings back so many memories. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy. I lived on Via de Saraghi near
Yes.
San Teresa. Yeah. At the Instituto Gold. Gold?
Yeah, I don't know.
Gould. I wouldn't know it because I didn't study opera. I went back with my boyfriend in 1992, and he proposed besides the Arno.
Oh my goodness. I got like
Oh,
goosebumps. That's so
yeah.
romantic.
I'm going back in June after 31 years with my church choir. Your podcast has been very helpful, and I've learned so much from it. I'm going to see Florence through your eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, through new eyes, not my eyes. Sorry. New eyes. Isn't that so sweet?
That's amazing. That's incredible. That's so
I
lovely to
I I
hear.
and I posted it on my Instagram story because I was so like proud of me and like of what I'm doing, and like also just because nobody's ever really just out of the blue sent me a message and said that. That
That's
was
really
just really
super.
nice. So I really do appreciate you guys listening. So anybody else out there, if this is helping you at all, I always love hearing from you because I'm gonna keep doing it. And me and Julia, I mean Julia can't always be on, but like Julia's gonna come on when we have like some really cool ideas. And one of these days we're gonna be in the same time zone.
Oh, I look forward to it. I look forward to be in something I look forward to is going to Florence, visiting with you again, and actually having my husband there and getting him to getting to show
Yeah.
him all the places where we used to hang out, what we used to do, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Because Florence, I'm not sure I'd ever live in Florence again. It's
Yeah. Me
very much
neither.
a youngster city. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like it's much better if you're in your early 20s. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Or
like
late 20s.
living there. Yeah,
But late 20s, 30s. Come on, let's be honest, because that's how old I was when I was living there.
but that's
Um,
true.
yeah,
It's a great place for that. But it's I guess
yeah,
when you're someone who's when you're like settled and you want to you got
uh-huh.
your cats and you want your
Yeah,
plants and all of that. I mean, Florence, just outside of the city though,
yeah.
like
I
outside of the
mean,
city center,
that's
that's
where
perfect.
that's where most of my friends live. It's just outside the city, and then I have some of like Stefano's cousins. They still live in um some of the neighborhoods outside the
Mm.
center, like Campo di Marte and like
Yeah,
near what I don't know what like it's not Bagno I guess it's near Bagno Ripoli, but his uncle and his cousin like they live near like kind of near Viale Europa, which
hmm
is over like Gavinana, like up over there.
yeah. I
Um
used to live
but
there.
Yeah, I know. I used to go to Gavinana to visit with Reno, Laura, my friend Laura's uncle,
Mm.
and his little dachshund named Lupin.
Oh.
Oh, I loved him.
Lupe.
Um, so, and the other thing I wanted to tell you, so my parents just came back from London and they visited with my grandmother's side of the family. So
Oh yeah.
my nana has two brothers that are still alive. So my uncle Lorenzo is he's kind of on the mend, but he's doing the best he can,
Yeah.
let's say. But he was in the hospital on and off the past couple of months. So praying that he's getting better as much as he can. And then my uncle Luigi is the second oldest brother because it was my nana, Francesco, he passed a few years ago, and then Luigi, and then Lorenzo. And my uncle Lou, he calls himself Lou. He and Orietta, my
Mhm.
great aunt, they both through FaceTime invited me to Farneta, where my
Oh.
grandmother was born and where they were all born, and in August of this year. Okay,
Oh.
so I went down deep down to try to figure out how can we make this work. Like we don't have the funds, but I was like begging, not begging. I was like telling Stefano about the idea, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we can make it work," and blah blah. Blah. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. The flights are just so expensive. Like in August in Italy, going to Bologna because I would fly into Bologna. It's like an hour and a half by car to get there. It's like $3,400 for both of us.
That's insane.
Which we spent 4,000 in June last year, just our tickets. For 9 days, not even a week, not even a full week, because obviously I don't consider, even if you say you're leaving, you're going to be there for 10 days, you're really not there for 10 days because there's two
No.
days that are travel and it just screws everything up. Anyway, so that's also really good news because if it does happen, great. If it doesn't, fine. But um I had asked as my parents were traveling, I was like asking her, I'm like, okay, ask Uncle Lou, like, where does he fly into? Like, blah, blah, blah. And my Uncle Lou, being the pessimistic Italian that I come from, it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to go this year. I'm like, why did you just, I'm like, I was like, I'm like, this sounds like my grandma so much. Like, Nana would be like, well, I told you to come, but I don't know what if I'm not alive? I might not be alive. So I don't know. Like, so he's very dramatic, is what I'm saying. Like, and I'm like, they don't know if that with health and everything, but the phrase that I loved my aunt Orietta said was like, "You speak Italian so well, you should really keep it up." In Italian, she said that, and I'm like, "Oh, thank you." She's like, "You probably speak better Italian than English." I'm like, "Good God, I wish that was true." I wish that was true. So yeah. So that's some little newsies that I have.
That's funny.
So today we decided, listeners, I was trying to figure out what to call my listeners. I was like, listeners just sound so, but it doesn't matter. We don't have to think about it now. But I was just thinking,
I guess
like,
like travel companions.
yeah, Italy lovers. I don't know.
Really
That's too long.
lovers. Yes.
So we were thinking today, Italy lovers, that we were going to speak about two towns, where she's going to speak of two and I'm going to speak about two, that have something unique about them. And these are towns that we haven't spoke about before, or I haven't. I almost spoke about the same one I've already spoken about, so I changed mine. Because some of them were their favorites, so we want to keep talking about them. So it's hard not to say, well, I love Monteferralle, but I've talked about Monteferralle so many times on this
Lots.
podcast,
Yeah.
and people be like, okay, I already heard this episode. Click, I'm going to skip it. So I picked two in Tuscany, obviously. Julia, I believe you were deciding on some, but I'm not sure which ones that you were deciding on. So, why don't you go first, since I've been talking for a bit, and tell me what cities or towns, paese. Paese is another word for little town. Um, bye.
So I thought the first one I'd talk about is Como, like the city Como, because Como is also a province. So it's
Oh,
the province that
oh, I
I
didn't
live
know
in.
that. Oh,
Yeah, I
okay,
didn't
good.
know either. Um, and one of the reasons I bring it up is because it is quite unique.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, most of Italy, especially when you're going towards the south or from Tuscany down, Bologna down, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you got all that like Italian spice of life and kind of la dolce vita, that whole thing, you know. But
Yeah.
Como is this place where it borders Switzerland. You know, you're 10 kilometers from the Swiss border at any given time when you're in Como.
So cool.
It's on the
I love
lake.
that.
The lake is like a really weird upside down Y shape. You know, and so you can go on the ferries. You get to go see all of the other little
Mm-hmm.
villages that are along the lakeside that's still within the Como province.
Yeah.
And you get to experience the side of Italy that's, so let's say, slightly more upper class, because there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these amazing factories around that are, you know, like gunsmiths that still make guns by hand. You know, every
Mm-hmm.
single item is made by hand, and they've been making it since the 1800s. We've got like
Wow.
Moto Guzzi, which is one of the most amazing um, motorcycle brands. And then there's all of these kinds of factories around there that create these luxury items. And you get to experience that in Como, but in the setting of a small town,
Mm.
village style of Italy, the cobblestones, the
Yeah.
churches. The Duomo is amazing. It's
Oh, God.
incredibly beautiful and
Great.
detailed and still in use today. When we walk
Really?
past
Oh.
it, there was like the prayer hours when you could go in and do your prayers. And, you know, it had all of this like wonder of being in Italy, but
Mm-hmm.
you get all these influences from the rest of Europe. So it's
Yeah.
this center point that connects it to the rest of Europe, and you really get to experience a completely different side of Italian culture. That
Mm-hmm.
culture that is mixed with the Celts, the Gauls, the, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
Lombards, like all of these people that settled in the area before it became Italy.
Sure.
And the cuisine shows as well. The cuisine is just a little different. It's a little Italian, it's a little
Mm-hmm.
German, a little Austrian. You know, it's got a
Yeah.
bit of everything in it.
What
And
did you have? What did you guys have? Did you guys stop for lunch or something?
we did. We
Mm.
stopped for cottoletto.
Uh-huh.
So it's basically schnitzel. It's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
you know, when they serve it with lemon. So you just put lemon, a little bit of fresh rucola, some salt, and it's really amazing. And you can either get it as pork or chicken. Pork is one of the more popular ones because pork
Okay.
is a main meat up here. So
Mm-hmm.
there are lots of cows, but those are mostly dairy cows and dairy goats. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
the meat source is pork or wild boar, and that's what you find the most of.
Okay.
And that they typically serve with either peas, mashed potatoes, or pan fried potatoes. Like those are the
Mm.
favorites.
Yeah. Pan fried is
And
good.
it's so good.
Mm.
Growing up in South Africa, it's a dish that I'm quite familiar with because there's a lot of German people who settled there.
Okay.
But the rest of Italy, it's not something you would get.
Mm.
You don't
No.
really get that. That's like it's
No, it's usually like
unusual.
roasted potatoes. I usually put them in the oven. Like in
Yeah.
Tuscany, I mean Stefano does pan roasted potatoes, but they're not really roasted, I would say. I would think they're fried, but more so than roasted, but yeah, I think it is more of a northern thing, like you said. Mhm.
It definitely is. I mean, even my grandmother, when she talks about schnitzel, she calls it Milanese. Like,
Oh.
and even on
Yeah,
the
because
menus
I
there.
almost I almost thought of that too when you said that because I've heard Milanese is like that, a pork cutlet or like also cotolette. I always think cotolette is like not just pork. It can be beef. It can be chicken.
Yeah.
That's the term. So this is a good like learning thing. Like Italy lovers, if you're traveling, you see cotolette. Usually, I guess it depends on the region. I would
Yeah.
ask if it's like usually it'll say beef or something like manzo or right or no
Yeah, I would say manzo or
or
maiale
yeah
or pollo,
yeah
depending.
yeah
But if it doesn't say, I would just ask because you are right. The region will change it
mm-hmm
up. I think the
sure
biggest difference with the north is that they make them big. The rest
oh
of Italy,
really
it's little cotoletinos,
yeah
tiny little.
yeah
Whereas here, they're like Austrian
is
style.
is it thick
Not super thick.
no
I would say maybe half an inch.
okay
Like, so it's not
yeah
super thick, but thick enough.
sure
And but it's very tasty. It's very exciting. The
mm-hmm.
only thing that I struggle with up here is that they don't use a lot of salt, and I'm used to
Oh
a bit more salt in my food, so everything's a little bit
sure
blander.
mm.
Um, but what they do use is a lot of butter. So when they fry the potatoes or the peas, there's butter in it. Whereas
Oh
my grandmother, Tuscany, it would be olive oil. It wouldn't be butter.
sure oh
So
that's new yeah I didn't know that
it's a little different. And most of it has a lot of butter. They've got these amazing cheeses
mm.
that are flavors that I cannot even explain. So I definitely
Mm-hmm.
go to somewhere and have a cheese board, do the affettati with the
Yes.
salumi and all of that because it's
Always do a
completely
charcuterie board wherever you are in
board. Yeah,
Italy.
definitely. Because
Affitati is the charcuterie board in English, basically. Like,
'cause, like one of the places, and even the butcher had it. For some people, this is going to sound very crazy, but they had salami made with
uh-huh.
donkey,
Oh, donkey.
donkey,
Okay,
and
that's new. I again not new. It's just new to me. That's all I'm gonna say.
right, and
I've never heard that.
we tasted it. I mean, I'm still all for like pork salami. That's my favorite, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a different experience. The flavor was
Mm-hmm.
quite different. It was sweeter.
Yeah.
Tasted a lot like horse meat if you've ever had that.
Okay.
It's not something I particularly like,
Yeah.
but the Swiss, it's quite common meat
Donkey
source in
is
Switzerland.
yeah, donkey and horse.
So
Huh.
so that's like you'll find weird things like that,
Okay.
and they will do. There's something else that they make, which is pancetta copata. So pancetta is the belly,
Uh-huh.
um, and coppa is actually the butt of the neck, right? That
Oh,
cut.
yeah.
And coppa is typically made in a certain way. So what they do is they take the belly and then they roll it up
Uh,
and slice it the way that they would the coppa meat, and it creates this really sensational flavor. And it
oh
just
my
kind of
gosh.
melts in your mouth as you eat
Oh
it, and it goes
gosh.
really well with their bread here. So the bread is
Oh,
very flavorsome. It's not
oh,
like Tuscan bread. It's got a
yeah.
lot of flavor. There's a lot of butter,
And there's
and
salt in the bread.
then there's salt in
Un-
the
Unlike Tuscany.
bread, like Tuscany.
Unlike Tuscany. The
Um,
one other question I had is about the church because you said the Duomo was beautiful there. Now you said
yes,
you could go in there and do your own prayers. So do they have the candles that you can light and like you put an offering in just like they do everywhere else in Italy, right?
they do.
Oh, I love
You
that.
can
That's
still do
my
your
favorite part.
candles. You can do the
My favorite part.
offering. I think they still have mass there as well
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And the basilica, that part is always open, so you can
Okay.
also go in there and do your prayers and the
Mm-hmm.
candles as well.
Yeah.
And when you're going into these historic places, you're surrounded by like shops like Versace and Armani and
Oh wow.
these
Yeah.
really well dressed but polite, nice, kind people.
Oh,
It's
that's
it's a
nice.
really good mix of the two.
Yeah.
And you won't get an experience like that anywhere else in Italy. It's a
Uh-huh.
way of experiencing northern culture in a beautiful way. There's just
Mm-hmm.
so much about the food that will be familiar if you've been,
Yeah.
especially to a Florence,
Sure.
but different enough that it will almost feel like you're taking your taste buds on this trip of its own. It's like it's
Yeah.
traveling in its own way.
That's awesome. That sounds like a great town, guys. I think Italy lovers. I think we should put that on our list to visit Como. Just Como. You don't have to visit the whole lake,
No.
unless you take a boat trip, which is probably a really good touristy attraction to do.
Hmm.
Julia, what is the next town that you chose? Yep.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We had a
Um,
cat screaming earlier. It's all right.
so the next one I decided to choose was actually where I live. Um, it's not even a town; it's a village. There's
Mhm.
only 340 people here permanently,
Oh wow.
which
Okay.
so it's pretty tiny. It's
Yeah.
called Caglio,
Calio.
and
Mhm.
it is also part of Como province. And the word Caglio itself actually means rennet, and you use rennet to make cheese, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
what makes cheese curdle, basically.
Uh huh.
And so around here, there's a lot of dairy products that are completely different to anything I've ever tasted.
I believe it. I believe it.
Um, and around here, you've got like flowers like primrose and daffodils that grow wild. And there's even a
Mm.
very specific daffodil that's white that grows here naturally and it's like protected by the area. So
Mhm.
there's also a lot of castañas, so chestnut trees,
Mhm.
and there's hiking, there's like just being a part of nature. So the
Yeah.
visiting here is also very different. You're not
Yeah.
going to get the same kind of Italian hospitality that you get in other places, but you're going to experience local Italians. Basically, no one who speaks anything except Italian who's from the area comes here.
Yeah.
So no one speaks English,
Mhm.
it's only Italian, and some of them only speak dialect from here, which only 6,000 people speak in this region.
Wow. Oh gosh.
It's amazing.
I love
And
that.
the food here is so peculiar. They do a lot of risotto, so you get a lot of
Mhm.
rice dishes that are very plain but very pleasant.
Mhm.
And I quite like that. But something that they absolutely love is polenta. You'll eat
Oh,
more polenta than you
love
could
it.
possibly imagine here, and they make it very different to how I'm used to.
Uh huh.
And one thing that they have is called, I think it's Montinari, is a type of cheese. It's really small, it's round,
Mhm.
it's
Okay.
cured, it's got a texture of like feta,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
and it's super strong kind of flavor. And what they do is eat it with a bit of olive oil and pepper, and
Oh.
they crumble it over the polenta as a
Oh.
dish.
That
It
sounds so
is
good.
out of this world.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that's something that you'll only find in this spot, talking to the
Yeah.
ladies that have the local shop.
Yeah.
Um, and they do a lot of like stews, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So when it's hunting
Yeah.
season and there's cinghiale, those types of stews that they kind of make with like a bit of red wine or white wine, and it's a little bit creamy. So there's not a lot of tomato based things here like you'd find in Tuscany.
Uh
It's
huh.
definitely more the butter and white wine kind of base
Yeah.
sauces,
Mhm.
but really, really good. They rely a lot on the flavor of what they're making.
Mhm.
So when you eat polenta, you get a lot of polenta flavor instead
Mhm.
of the sauce that's with it. So
Oh, it's
they
even
also
better.
don't put in a lot of spices. They don't use a lot of herbs. It's very
Okay.
much what you're making. That's the flavor that you get in a very pleasant way.
Mhm. And
It's
that
very,
and
very
I think
pleasant.
and I think this is a good point to say is that especially in most of Italy, not just where Julia is, but a lot of the recipes are very simple. So it doesn't have to be a lot of things and added. I know I've said this numerous times on the podcast, but when you go to Italy, like if you go to Caglio, you're not going to get things that have a lot of things added to them. So this is like a great place for somebody that wants to be out of their comfort zone completely and try to
Yeah,
communicate as much as you can in Italian or in your broken Italian, whatever it might be. Because they will appreciate it, I imagine. Like even them trying to speak in Italian. not just like yelling in English, as I've seen Americans do.
No,
And
they
other Italians.
they really love it, and they try
Mhm.
to. They're very encouraging. Like my husband, that he's learning Italian.
Yeah.
When we go to the shop and we go to ask for bread, like everybody waits for him to ask so
Oh,
that he can
I love
practice.
that.
And then, they'll encourage him and say, yeah, yeah, you're doing it
Yeah.
right. You're doing it right. You're speaking, well, and you
Oh,
pronounce it
that's so
well.
nice. Oh my
So
God. That's such a
very,
nice feeling,
it
especially
is.
for your husband, because he doesn't
Oh, for
speak the
sure.
language and he's new to the culture. And to get that, type of kind of support when you're not from that city. I mean, and guys, if you're the ones people listening, if you have to know that it's very difficult to get into a culture of a small town in Italy. Like
Yeah,
if you are a foreigner, you are not always accepted. You are not always if you don't speak any language, I think they really kind of write you off sometimes, and they don't want to try to converse, or maybe they do, maybe they don't, depending on the town. But this is a very special town than from the other
very.
one that you were in. I mean, your other one you were in, you met some nice people as well, but yeah, I these are two great towns that are very unique. They have their own flair about them with their foods and everything, and then um and also with the culture and the nature. Like if you're a nature freak, Callio is a place to go because there's so many. Sends me a lot of videos, guys, about her hiking and picking, mushrooms and chestnuts, and like, oh, I mean, it's an outdoorsy person's dream, I feel like, in your area.
It definitely is. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people come here just to do the hikes
Mm-hmm.
because there's one hike that, I mean, it will take you the whole day, but you can hike up from here
Mm-hmm.
to the Colma. So the Colma being the top of the mountain.
Oh,
And
wow.
once you get there, there's another hour and a half hike along the ridge of the mountain,
Oh,
and you just see into the valley. And when you get to the end, you can see both sides of Lake Como,
oh my
like
God.
each one coming around the mountain valley. And there's just
Yeah.
no other experience like it, and the landscape is so unique. I will say, if you are mobility challenged, you will
Mm-hmm.
obviously struggle, but there's still ways to get up to the Colma. There's a restaurant there,
Mm-hmm.
and people are very accommodating if you need accommodation.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like I mean, it's it, it's been so much easier getting to know people here than it has in other places. And
Sure.
what you're saying about villages in Italy, it can be very difficult to be a part of the community if you're a foreigner. And you don't even have
Mm-hmm.
to be from outside Italy. Like if you're just from the south or you're from three provinces over, that could be enough of a disconnect for people to not want to incorporate you into the community. Whereas
Sure.
here, there's a Ukrainian couple, there's a lady from Thailand, there's German people, there's
That's
British
awesome.
couple. So it's got a good mix.
Yeah.
They're not, you won't find a lot of foreigners here visiting. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a missed opportunity because it is getting to know the true culture of the North,
And
you
it's
know?
not catering to tourism anyway, your town.
No,
Not
no.
like Como. Como is more, I would think, more of on the touristy side, maybe on the ritzy touristy side is what you were
Yeah.
saying, because there's a lot of like high end shops, but there's also like regular tourists that like take boat rides and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I think there's those are two great offerings of cities where, people probably wouldn't, I mean, apart from Como, I wouldn't have known from of Calio unless I've met you. So like, unless I knew you were living there. So those are great towns. All right, so we're gonna try to keep this under. I'm because otherwise we can keep going. We're trying to keep
Yep.
this under an hour, but we're probably not gonna do that. But
That's it.
I'll try. Do my best. Okay, so the first town I'm gonna talk about is called Stia, and Stia is a town I visited with Stefano and a couple friend of ours. And Stia is famous for a Tuscan film called Il Ciclone, the Cyclone. And if you watch it, I don't even know if there's any translated versions of it. I don't think it would make
No
sense.
idea.
If it would, because it's all in Tuscan dialect. It is the most hilarious movie I've ever watched. I know it by heart. We watch it all the time when we like don't want know what to watch. Let's just watch Ciclone because it's so funny. And the town, the main piazza was filmed in was main a main part of that film. Um, so we wanted to go there just because of that movie, and really, I knew nothing of it at all until that movie. But so Stia is located in the province of Arezzo, and it's like right at the edge of which I didn't know this there was a mountain there, but um Monte Faltorona, and it's where the Arno actually starts from
All
this mountain,
right.
and it comes down. And there's a really famous stopping point for motorcycle riders called Consuma. So it's
Mm-hmm.
actually near there. It's another tip of the mountain, but it's this is a really hilly, windy road to get to Stia. And it's literally, if you look up Stia and you look up the main piazza, which is the piazza is called Piazza Tanucci, and it is a big flat street, and it's kind of like a hill. It comes down, and there's just a bunch of shops and restaurants on the side. But it's one of those piazzas. It's not like a traditional piazza with a bunch of cafes and stuff. It's just like a street. Well, it's pedestrian, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Anyway, it's a really cool town because there's a lot of I can tell you all the history, but because me in history, I don't know it all. So so Piazza Donucci was named after a famous Tuscan. He was born there, Bernardo Tanucci. He was born in 1689. I'm gonna say what he did, and I want you to guess what that means. I don't know what it means, but I want you to guess. He is the Minister of Justice and Chief Royal Advisor of Naples. Chief Minister of Justice. What is that? I don't know. I didn't look anything further because I didn't have time. But you guys think Minister of Justice, Chief Royal Advisor of Naples. He must have moved to Naples because otherwise, why would you be a Chief Royal Advisor? Um, I
Yeah.
don't know. Thoughts?
Um, I mean, I guess Minister of Justice, they would make me think someone who was like a judge or
That's what I
something at
thought.
some
That's
point.
what I'm thinking. He was some
Um,
sort of big judge, and maybe I don't know, decided
maybe
on different
like
Naples things. I have no
laws.
idea.
Interesting.
um, yeah, I don't know. That was just funny. A little unique fact. Stia was known for, I think he's still known for, in the 12th century, they started manufacturing wrought iron.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, a hillside. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Because it's in the hill. And then obviously, a lot of towns in Tuscany, I don't know about the north, were basically founded by Etruscans. We all
Yeah.
should know this by now. The Etruscans were the ancient people before the Romans that inhabited all of Italy, basically. And what they found in this Lake of the Idols, can't read my handwriting. They found a bunch of bronze artifacts, and they were all of like body parts, like eyes, hearts, legs, feet, arms, everything, hands, and that those were dated back to the 6th and 4th century BC.
Oh,
And those artifacts, they're in the Louvre, they're in the British Museum. And then there's also, they found 10 stone and gold artifacts, some beaded necklaces made of glass. This is what they found all in around Stia.
okay.
So the Etruscans were very prevalent there, as they are everywhere, but not a lot of towns talk about, you know, these types of things. Um, so I don't have much more about Stia. That's the history part. I remember eating at a restaurant there right on the piazza, and they had really good. I think Stefano and Alessandro, they had the bistecca di Fiorentina alla Fiorentina,
Mm-hmm.
so it was probably delicious. Um, Yeah, it's a great town because one is away from every place. Away from like Florence. It's probably about maybe 45 minutes away from Florence, but to the east. So going towards like Ponte Sieve, um, further. But it's a beautiful drive. I remember how beautiful it was because it was
Yeah.
just like curvy and windy, and you're going up the hill, then you go down the hill, then you go up the hill. If you guys are getting sick, just sit down. As I said that. So so Stia is a really good place to visit. They're also famous for, I'm sorry, tortello della patata. They're
Oh my
famous for that.
god, is that where
So
it's from?
that I don't know if it's from, but they're famous for it. So I'm
Um,
guessing they do sagras like most places do. Sagras I've talked about, guys, are these food festivals where basically like markets for delicious cheap food, but it's delicious. Um,
that's
so you would see like the sagra della tortello dalla patata. I don't know how do you say it, but I forget how they wrote it on their signs. But yeah, so and tortello is a pasta. If I didn't say that, so it's potato stuffed pasta, and it's delicious.
it is one of my favorites. And when
Mm-hmm.
it's done just right, it's just like one of those dishes that you eat and it feels so high end, but
Mm-hmm.
extremely nostalgic at the same time. You know, like you just feel really warm inside.
Yeah, it's so
So
good.
go to
It's so
Stia, go have a potato filled pasta dish.
yeah. Go and enjoy it because it's delicious. Okay, then the last one we're gonna talk about is one place that's dear to my heart just because I vacationed there once the first time with Stefano is called the town of Asciano.
Hmm.
And Asciano is located in the province of Siena. So it's close to Florence. It's probably about 30 minutes from Florence, southeast, I would say. 30 minutes. It might be a little bit more. 45. Let's go 45. Everything's 40 or 45 minutes, I feel like, from Florence. But
Yeah.
um it is a small town. It is not a hill town. It is in the middle of the Creti Sienese, which is the rolling hills. So if you guys have ever looked up a picture of near Siena, you'll see like it's kind of like a what is the color? It's like a yellow. It seems like it's like a straw like color that the
Hmm.
terrain is made of. Um, and it's just rolling. You'll see a random cypress tree in the middle. Like that's the Crete Sienese, if I'm saying it right, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's the region, I guess, where this town is located. Um, we found this because we were looking for a place to go in the middle of August, and we found this beautiful agriturismo by a family, and it's at the end of this dirt road, like no traffic goes through, and it has a pool. It was beautiful in the middle of nowhere, hardly any Wi-Fi. It was just perfect. It was so picturesque. The town itself, you could actually walk from where we were, but we drove, but the town is like maybe one, I think it's like two cross streets, and then there's the co-op on top. I'm trying to remember. We didn't really go into any of the churches or anything because we basically were there for vacation, so we had a lot of spritz, Aperol spritz in one of the piazzas. Um, and Asciano has nearby there is Rapolano Terme, which is the one of the famous hot spring um, spas in
Hmm.
Tuscany. And if you don't know, if you've never been to a hot spring, I would recommend going. Maybe not in the middle of August,
Yeah.
because it's quite hot. You don't want to be
I've
in a
never
hot
been to
spring.
one.
You've never been to one? Oh my
No.
god. Oh my god, we need to go. Okay, we need to go. So, one of my retreats, guys, we're going to go to a hot spring that's free in the middle of nature. Um and okay, Julia's coming to that one. So, whoever else is coming, you better sign up and just tell me. Send me an email. Cuz I've never been to the one that's the nature one, but I've been to other ones that are like you have to pay to get in. But I believe that the nature one is going to be a lot more beautiful than the one that's curated by, you know, other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so Rapolano, I remember we went there not this time, but the next year for my birthday. We went for a long weekend, the same agriturismo, and we actually got a coupon to go to Rapolano for like the day. And because that place is very particular because it has an indoor outdoor pool, so you can swim underneath and go inside and be
Okay.
inside. And then the outdoor pool, I believe it's just the outdoor pool that has the mud where you rub all
Oh,
over your body, and this is like so nice. So recommended Rapolano as well as staying in Asciano. There's some cute shops that I remember in Asciano. We had some nice nice dinners at some places. I don't remember a lot because I think we ate at the house a lot. Because I remember us like spending way too much money. Thankfully, we drove and we weren't like just buying all this stuff and we'd have to leave it. But we bought like €180 worth of food for like a week, and it was just the two of us. Most of it was wine, obviously, and probably cheese. But but yeah, it's a really great place, guys. So I would recommend Asciano. Look up if you want to know the place I stayed. I'll actually put in the show notes because it's a really great place to stay because they really at the end of the week we had like a big dinner together with everybody that was staying at the agriturismo, like outside with a really long table,
That's
like how you
cool.
see like in movies, like when people like go to an Italian home and they like invite. It was just so fun. You
That's
just
really
became
cool.
friends with people that I never saw again, but still it was nice to it was nice to go somewhere
Yeah,
where it was just like in the middle of nowhere and it was
that's
fun.
so cool, man. That's my dream. Love to have an
Yeah.
agriturismo one day.
Yeah, totally. Um, so I'm gonna put some of the things we talked about in the show notes. Julia, why don't you send me that hiking? I thought that hiking thing would be cool to like kind of link from Calio that you talked about.
Okay, cool.
Is
Yeah.
there like a website or something people can look up? I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
I actually I do have a bunch of these.
Oh,
What do you call them now? Brochures. I will
brochures.
have a
Okay,
look
good.
if there are websites. There should be. Because there's multiple kinds of hikes that you can do. There's the one for the
Yeah,
chestnuts, and then
sure.
one where you can go and see like all the farm animals, and
Yeah.
then there's an oasis as well,
Mm-hmm.
like a botanical garden type thing. So yeah, I
Yeah.
will send those to you because they're so magical. You know, when you're
Yeah.
walking and there's not a lot of people, especially in the like autumn months, and
Yeah.
then there's just this silence that
Oh, I love it.
you can hear like every twig and everything. It's amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I will
Yeah.
send it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put all that in the show notes. As always, I'm gonna put also if you want to leave us a message and if you want us to talk about something, I could put my speak pipe link in there and you can leave a message. You don't have to leave your name or your number or anything. Just tell me what you want me to talk about. Um, and yeah, feedback, reviews. Give me a review. Tell me like how I'm doing. I'm actually gonna also post I'm trying to get this is the last thing I'll say. I always say it seems like I'm gonna end the podcast and I'm not yet. So I'm almost
Never.
about to end it, and then a new thing comes to my head.
Very
So there's this new that's not probably new thing, but it's a new thing for me as a business owner, but I have a Google business profile,
Mm-hmm.
and from the research that's been done around this, people find you more often through Google but
Yeah.
through this business profile. So I've been reaching out to like people that have like done events with me and like the people that have done the retreat with me and like so if you are listening to my podcast and you like it and you could give me a review, that would be awesome. So I'm going to put that in my show notes as well for you to leave. You don't even have to write anything, even if you just give me like 4 or 5 stars. 5 stars would be great, but anything, anything would be great. I really truly appreciate all of you guys that are listening. I see every week that I'm getting more and more listeners, and it's like
Yeah.
incredible. I do not know where you're coming from. I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy Julia's here because she gives a lot of insight in the northern part of Italy and then overall all the stuff. So I appreciate you. So I'm going to end this podcast now. Buongiorno, buonasera, buonanotte, wherever you are. And I'll see you on the next podcast. Grazie mille. Thank you, Giulia. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
I am beyond grateful for you listening to my podcast right now. I am so excited to share my journey of living abroad and all my stories of Florence and Italy and all the places in between that I've visited. If this has reached you in any way and you would like to continue, please subscribe now. Also, go check out my website, trulyitaly.tours, for all my travel experiences. Ci si vede. Ciao.